He considered the continuous strip of images a substitute for a movie.
Frequently, I dream of the movie I'd like to make. What a peculiar metamorphosis you'd see then. Unfortunately, you wouldn't find an audience for it. I would surely bore people to death.
Almost 30 years later, he would create an extended version of Metamorphosis for the walls of the post office in Den Haag. Escher moved again in 1941, this time to Baarle in the Netherlands. It was wartime. His time was completely consumed providing the material necessities for his family. It nearly drove him crazy. He listened to Bach a lot, but not just for his musical pleasure. He was looking for a kindred spirit. Escher described Bach's music as if it were his own work.
What is a canon? It's basically a short motif that repeats itself. That repetition takes on many forms, identical or in another key, from back to front or upside down, as if in a mirror, or twice as slow. And when played simultaneously, these variations of the motif create almost mathematical figures. I was looking for congruent figures that infinitely fill the space, or at least fill it without borders, without leaving open spots.
Escher signed his works with his left hand. It appealed to his vanity that he had famous left-handed predecessors, such as Da Vinci, Holbein, Dürer, and his own former teacher, de Mesquita.
A lady called me and said, "Mr. Escher, I love your work. You have so accurately portrayed reincarnation in your reptiles print." I replied, "Miss, if you see it that way, it must be so."
Escher confronted a new problem.
3 dimensions are only an illusion. The plane is flat. Isn't it absurd to draw a few lines and say, "This is a house"? In a moment of clarity, you'd be amazed at this.
The play with spatial and flat forms was a new challenge. Mirrors, curved mirrors, and the transition from the second to the third dimension fascinated Escher. In prints such as convex and concave and ascending and descending, Escher plays with the front, back, upper and lower planes and introduces all sorts of impossible connections. Escher also discovered the fantasy world in literature, such as in Alice in Wonderland. Alice says to herself, "What a peculiar path. It looks more like a corkscrew than a path. But this bend surely goes to the hill. No, it doesn't. It goes straight to the house. I'll try the other way then." In the Netherlands, Escher took walks in the woods every day. He saw a complete reflection on the surface of a pond. He stood with his back to it, bent forwards, and looked at the pond from between his legs. This way he could experience the reflected world as if it were the real world. When a squirrel dropped an acorn in the water, Escher realized that he was looking at the water again. It was not until 1950 that Escher had a real breakthrough and started to sell well. An article in Time and Life magazine introduced him to the American market, the orders for prints kept pouring in. Escher saw the nightmare of becoming a printing machine loom almost overnight. Still, he kept making his own prints. Escher loved literature.
Tolkien helped me through the evening with his fantastic world of hobbits, elves, dwarves, and good wizards, set against devilish monsters.
Escher created his own animal.
It was born from dissatisfaction at the lack of wheel-shaped creatures in nature, which could get around by rolling.
So he invented the curl-up, as he called it. At the end of the 1950s, Escher became known internationally in scientific circles. Mathematicians and crystallographers questioned him and sometimes came up with new ideas. Before that time, he had always developed his spatial compositions and shifts of perspective independently, without far-reaching scientific knowledge. His Circle Limits series was based on a publication by the Canadian professor Coxeter. About this, Escher wrote,
"You can't keep your eyes off this limiting circular shape, composed of infinite small planes that encloses everything logically and inescapably. I sent Mr. Coxeter a print, and am curious as to his reaction."
The latter reacted enthusiastically. In 1968, at the end of his life, Escher also received recognition in the Netherlands, in the form of a large exhibition at the Hague Municipal Museum. He gave regular lectures at home and abroad. Americans continued to be his biggest customers. The red ants follow each other as if in a treadmill, always over the same impossible circuit, monotonous as Escher's daily rhythm. Make wood huts, eat and rest. Make wood huts, eat, rest. At the end of his life, Escher was tired and frequently ill, but not a trace of this is to be seen in his last work. Powerful form and perfection down to the smallest detail.